Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
Frozen. Heroes, gonna tell you about pros and heroes, gonna tell you about comic books, costumes, facts, boots, and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Do A Powerbomb Part 1.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the muscle-bound one, Mr. Mike.
No.
And the reason I say muscle-bound is because today, there you go.
It's a theme.
It is. Well, it would help if I didn't block up the cover. Let me do like this.
Themey theme.
There we go. We got Do A Powerbomb today is what we are going to cover because I decided, hey, there's a lot of stuff I need to get to, and there was a lot of stuff that I read while I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
A lot of really good stuff. So I figured we'd focus on some of the stuff that was kind of outside the box that we haven't kind of gotten around to a lot yet.
You read this in the hospital?
I did.
Do A Powerbomb?
7 issues. I read it in one sitting.
Wow.
It was,
I
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
Sure.
half kind of seated up. If you're joining us for the first time, what we are is
God, I hate the hospital, don't you?
I do too.
It sucks.
No,
Yeah, I don't like it.
I was there a long time.
Bad experience. That's 1 star.
But if you're new joining us, we are not a hospital review podcast. We are
Ooh, what a great idea.
No,
you just review
that's a
hospitals.
terrible idea. Well, you would have to get
great.
sick enough to go stay in these hospitals.
You just pretend.
Man, okay.
Sorry, my pancreas hurts.
Can you look at it? 3.5 stars. But we are a comic book podcast. It started out, we would focus on specific heroes and villains, hence the bros and foes. Or I guess the heroes are and foes. Mike and I are the bros in this because we're friends.
Our biggest problem is in the name, right?
Why is it? I think it's a catchy name.
No, it's a great catchy name. It is.
Bros, foes, and heroes.
The biggest problem is that big stork of a man that we work with
loves to insert
who calls it bros, hoes, and
heroes, which doesn't even make sense because the H is right after you.
No, it didn't make any sense, but neither does he. So.
That's true. Anyway, where I will explain things, storylines, characters to an unknowing Mike. Not to say that Mike doesn't know things. Mike knows a lot of stuff. Mike knows enough to be dangerous on things. Mike doesn't know too much about what we're going to get in today, which is Do A Powerbomb. Not to say that he's not familiar with at least wrestling as a whole. You get how wrestling works.
I know that letters are a thing, and when you put them together, they make words.
There we go.
And then I understand that men like to jump off, well, men and women like to jump off turnbuckles.
There you go. See, so that is enough you need to know. You need to know getting into this. It is a series that if you're not into wrestling, you can still fully enjoy. And I think that I will kind of explain that like going in. Obviously, spoiler alerts and some of this, because we are covering the comic. Granted, I won't give you everything. You're going to have to go and read it for yourself to get absolutely everything in this book. We'll cover the basic story, but it is absolutely fantastic. I want to commend, before we get into this, Daniel Warren Johnson for this book. He is the guy who wrote it, he created it, and he drew the whole thing. So, like, he did all of it. He's a guy that has been in our poll or had a story that was in our poll once with Wonder Woman Dead Earth that we'll get to at some point in time. Yeah. Also, how I know about Daniel Warren Johnson is I know he's done a lot of things. I think Murder Falcon was one of his stories that's really big. I don't know why I'm blanking on another one.
Murder Falcon.
Murder Falcon, yeah. I think it's metal related too.
Okay.
Music, not like just sheet metal.
Not just sheet metal.
It's a comic book about sheet metal.
Yeah, that's great.
But
Sheet metal man.
I came to know him from a Superman story that he did. They did this collection called, and it's not a collection. It's where they have like multiple stories and an anthology.
Yeah.
Superman Red and Blue, where it was different stories in each issue, like 3 or 4. But the color palette for all of it was just red and blue. It makes sense. You have the black and white, and then your red and blue.
Oh,
that's all
okay.
you use color palette wise.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
But he did a Superman story from that is so simple, but it's just so good. Of like
Superman goes to the toilet.
tugging at heartstrings and stuff. And it's effective storytelling. It's only an 8-page story, and it is such effective storytelling.
Wait,
that it's
8 page?
only 8 pages. And
For real?
Yeah, and it is I would say it's such a good, like the way he does it, so concise that for the last 5 pages, it's only the same 3 lines of dialogue over and over again.
Holy crap.
So
yeah, now I want to see that.
So let's go ahead and we'll dive into because I figured before we got into Let's Do a Powerbomb, we would cover his story from Superman Red and Blue, which is one of my favorite Superman stories, especially here recently. And I'm going to try to not like go into all of this and show off all 8 pages because it's the entire story, but it's going to be kind of hard not to. But the art of this looks great. And it's essentially Jonathan Kent goes to the church there. And this is after we come to find out pretty recently after they find the spaceship that Clark is in.
Okay.
And it's him just like sitting there like, I think he's asking the preacher there, he's like, how can I say this? Like, I've been around a lot and I thought that I knew, how things work, but there's this thing like, being a father is taught me early on. Like he's starting, Jonathan Kent's starting to have worries. Like I can tell you as a new father,
sure.
A lot of fathers do.
Yeah.
And so like, but it's intercut with them like finding the ship and him back talking to the priest there. And like the priest is telling him like, hey, do you remember when like what the story of I'm trying to paraphrase here, but I'll go ahead and find it. Do you know the story of when our Savior was baptized? And Jonathan's like, I gotta be honest, like it's been a while since I've gone in and read anything. Like, been a busy farmer guy. It's been a while since I've gone in and read a book. And he asked him, he's like, what did he say? And that's where the preacher just tells him like, as Jesus came out of the water, this is my son who makes me proud.
Mm.
And so he kind of tells Jonathan, like, that's as long as he knows that, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And so the story then finishes, and I'll just do just pictures.
These are the same lines.
So then it goes, and all the 3 lines after that are, I gotta make sure, you are special, I love you, I'm proud of you.
Oh, wow.
And so that's the rest of the story. But he does such a good job of intertwining pieces of art there with it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Relating to of like Clark growing up, because this is Superman then, and him doing different things with the Clarkson of like there's him working on a car, there's him going to school, and it's just the same lines.
Yeah, it's very
repeated over and over again until eventually it's Pa Kent dead, because we know.
Wait, Pa Kent dies?
Yeah, Pa Kent
Oh,
dies.
come on.
Yeah, I know. And then the lines continue.
Yeah.
But instead of Pa Kent saying them, it's Superman saying them.
Yeah.
And so it's just.
And he's saying them to the people and the world.
And everything.
Huh.
But it's just a good showing of how.
That makes him very Savior-like.
Kind of in a way, but also, well, I get that, but to me, it was also showing like how his father shaped him.
Yeah, no, I get that. But this is a very reminiscent of the Bible kind of story here, though.
I get it, but I think that's kind of.
Especially when he backs up against, looking at the entire planet like that.
But I think that's always been a part of Superman's story in a way.
Yeah, sure.
Like I think even when Simon and Schuster, I would say Simon and Schuster, and I think it's isn't that a playhouse or something?
Simon and Schuster is it's a book thing, right?
Yeah. I know that it's Siegel and Schuster. There we go.
Siegel.
I always get them confused. It's Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster.
Okay.
I think that there's some of that back when they created Superman to begin with. That there was kind of like they borrowed from.
I don't know how you can't.
Yeah, and I think
You know?
a lot of stories like that kind of do.
Yeah.
Like I think what Shakespeare is always the one quoted who it might have been somebody for him that there's kind of not an original idea. Like
Yeah.
everything's taken from somewhere, and a lot of things take from
The Bible.
Exactly. We covered Kingdom Come that had a lot of stuff there from the Bible with McGog and all that. That was really good.
The Bible.
The Bible. Or the Bible.
Or the Bible.
So, really great story of just, to me, it shows how Jonathan Kent kind of turned.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like raised Clark to be the man in the Superman that
How did
he
they
ends up being.
present that one? It was in.
It's in the middle of
ones
the other
as far as
stories,
the
yeah.
anthology stuff goes.
Yep.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't think I have it here.
No, you're good.
Well, no, I'm making sure that I can do this real quick. But like the other ones in there, and I have to do it like this to share my screen just so you can kind of see.
Share your screen.
This is going to be great. And then we'll get into Do a Powerbomb today. I can pick exact one.
Everybody in the audio, we're going to share a screen.
Yeah. So you're not going to be able to see
Enjoy
that.
this.
I'm doing it just to show my.
There you go.
Can you see that now?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the
that's
different,
gorgeous.
like it's
Yeah.
all blue and
Yeah, it's
red.
red and blue. That's cool.
But see, and then there's the
Yeah.
different stories that are just.
To be fair, there's some black and some white in there.
That's true, but it's all just kind of thrown together there then as a.
Yeah. So you're just showing pages of the anthology, and it's all red and blue.
It's all red and blue, but I was just
It's
so
very
they're
cool,
just
though.
all kind of pieced together. But they did
Yeah.
a couple different issues of that.
I love that panel.
They do things reminiscent of like there's a Batman black and white or noir where everything's black and white and things like that. But we are not talking any more Superman today. I was doing that just to kind of plug Daniel Warren Johnson's story there because that's what I cannot read that. If you couldn't tell, it took a lot out of me without just like it hits me every single time. And I've read it like 20 times at this point, but it's just so good. So that's where I first knew Daniel Warren Johnson from, and then I knew about the Wonder Woman Dead Earth book, which everybody seems to love, and I've heard a lot of good things about, and we will cover it at some point in time.
Okay.
But I enjoy a lot more when I was younger, but wrestling in a way of where I like the Muppet Show of it. Like it's a show about a show. I like the back workings of it, the way like all these people come together to make it work. Like that part of it to me has always been fascinating.
I used to fast forward through the matches just
to
get
watch
to the
other
cutscenes. Yeah, basically.
But it's a very fascinating world, and a world where I think that there's oddly enough a lot of crossover with the comic book world. And,
oh, sure.
I think that was I watched an interview that it was really cute and really funny, but Daniel Warren Johnson had his family, so like his wife and his kids and his mom and dad, interview him about why he made this book and stuff. And he does bring up a great point of how there's a crossover between the two and how hard, and I think you'll appreciate this, Mike, as somebody who likes to draw a bit, of how hard he talked about it was to draw the moves, of like trying to be able to explain them
Oh, yeah.
while you're doing it, because you have to like spell it out enough. You can't just go from one to the other. And I think he does a great job in this throughout. The art is fantastic. The group that works on it. So Daniel Warren Johnson, again, wrote, created, and drew this whole thing. Mike Spicer does the color, and Rus Wooton does the letters. And this team does a fantastic job. We'll go ahead and dive into, we're going to break this up. Oh, I got a little fuzzy there for a second. We're going to go ahead and break this up. And kind of similar to how we did Supergirl last week. It's 7 issues this time. So since we did Superman, we'll do the first 3 this week, the last 4 next week.
That's great.
So let's dive in to start our podcast, or this week's issue, with Do a Powerbomb, issue 1. And so what we have here, as you can kind of already tell, a little bit different. You see the skulls down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Are these zombie-like creatures, though we'll get why that might be there here in a bit. Also, those are our 2 main protagonists, our protagonist and subtagonist, second protagonist, however you want to do it.
Is subtagonist a thing?
I just made it a thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it sounds right, doesn't it?
Fair. Sure.
Or I think there's another word for it.
I don't know.
I love when I know nobody else can see this because the way we are, but the background footage you have, I love when I turn and look at you. It's just a small McDonald's.
It's just, I don't know what this is.
It's like old footage, but it's just like a small McDonald's.
Yeah, it's literally just old footage of a McDonald's is all it is.
So Do a
Come get us,
Powerbomb,
McDonald's.
issue 1, right here, and we're introduced to Ewa Still Rose and Cobra Sun, who are going to be the main. They're battling for the. I'm trying to remember. It's the Tokyo Grand World Heavyweight title that you see Yua have there. So
Okay.
it's this big match, right, between these two big stars of this promotion.
Yeah.
And we see it intercut in with backstage of her getting ready for her match, and she's talking to her daughter.
This is which one getting ready?
Yua.
Yua. Okay.
So Yua Still Rose
Yua
is the
Still
woman,
Rose. Okay.
and she's going against Cobra Sun, who's
Yeah.
the guy there.
I saw the Cobra Sun part, the Yua
Yeah.
part. I couldn't.
They're
make out.
down for some intergender wrestling.
Intergender Wrestling Championship of the World.
There you go.
Da-da-da-da.
But as she's back there with getting ready for the match, I don't know why. I think Lana.
Is that her
Why am I
child?
forgetting her daughter's name right now? Yes. So Yua is the mom,
Little Susie.
and her daughter's name is no, and I don't know why I'm blanking on this because it's the main character's name.
Little Sally.
Lona. There we go.
Little
I knew
Lona.
it was a Lona, Lona. So Yua is talking to her daughter Lona, telling her like, hey, like, she asked her like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm just getting ready for this big match.
Yeah.
I'm going out there doing something I love, and I just like doing that. But also like you being able to be here to see me do something I love.
Yeah, sure.
She's like, but you got to sit with your dad or with your uncle Blood here because your dad's got to work late. So you're gonna go sit out there with him while we have our match.
Mm.
And Lona's like, but I want to, and she's like, no, like, go out there with your uncle. You can, watch. And about that time, like you see it cut in with her and her husband there of like, he's like, all right, go have a great match, hon. She's like, thanks. And she goes out for there and she cuts this promo while she's out there about how like she's wrestling for her family and not just her daughter that's there, but everybody here is a part of her family. Like she's obviously the face of this group. Face and heel wrestling terminology. I feel like a lot of people know that. Face is for baby face. That's the good guy, and heel is the bad guy.
That's
so
right.
she is the face in this, and Cobra Sun is the heel, and he comes
You think
out
you're
there
a face?
between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're the heel of the
I'm the heel.
podcast, probably.
I'll take that.
But,
I like how when we look at each other,
Yeah.
we're looking off the screen. That's
um,
my favorite part.
did we? We can fix that. Real
No,
quick.
no, don't fix it. Don't fix it. I like it this way.
But
It feels like infinity.
but I kind of want to fix it now.
No, don't fix it. It's
Good.
great.
You pointed it out.
Leave it
And
alone.
I'm gonna fix it.
Leave it alone. Don't fix it.
Fine. So that's great for the podcast.
People on audio, we just had an argument about fixing us. Our video is on the other sides of each other.
I'm sure that you're really sad you missed out on that.
Oh,
So
boy.
Cobra Sun comes out.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Patreon.
No, it's right here.
This
That's
is
it.
good Patreon content right here.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay for this. But Cobra Sun comes out and he's like telling her like, "Oh, you've lost." This is typical like wrestling
He's
promo.
huge.
Like he is, but it's like typical wrestling promos, like what you would think. Like
Sure.
you've lost track of what's important in this. You're talking about your family and forget how important that title is. But that's okay. Like I'm about to take it from you. And Lona's in the crowd watching mom, and she's like, "Kick her ass or kick his ass, mom!" Like she's just into this, and you get the ding, 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 the ring of the bell. And I will say, like I've told you this, the action that he draws in this
Ding,
is just fantastic.
Oh, wow. Look at
Now,
that.
again, I don't have every page and every panel here because I don't want to give away everything because
But
there's
there's
a lot of great stuff.
There's a lot of great angles in this
Yes.
thing, like unusual angles to draw from.
The way that he does his angles, the way that he draws his action, the way that his sound effects, like the words,
Right.
the onomatopoeias are thrown in there,
Yeah.
because they break through like the side of the panels and stuff too. Like you see this a lot. I think it's the same thing that we gave credit to Patrick Horvath for. Or it wasn't, and I can't forget the letter. I can't remember the letter's name right now, and I feel so bad. And I'm sorry, but for Beneath the
Yep.
Trees, where nobody sees, when they would have like the words like break out of the panel, it's like
Yeah.
it was an added thing.
Yeah.
It's in this too,
Yeah.
and it's done really well. But so Cobra,
It just makes you think it's super loud and
Yes.
super intrusive.
and it's
you
just
know?
and it kind of creates that wrestling atmosphere
Yep.
for you. So Cobra Sun and Yua Still Rose are having their match, and it bleeds out into the crowd, and they're fighting back and forth. And there's a part where they go up, and he's going for his finishing move. That's the setting sun.
Mhm.
But no, to finish, I mean, this is for the champion. Like you'll see this a lot in actual matches. Like he can't just do a regular, setting sun. He's got to make it. He's got to make sure that this move
Oh, yeah.
is going to take her out. So he's going to step up from the top rope and do it from there instead of from the middle rope where he usually does.
Yeah.
When he gets to the top rope, Lona kind of feels like something's wrong, and she's scared. Her Uncle Blood's like, "No, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay." And he's kind of worried too. And you see Cobra Sun's foot get shaky,
Oh.
and it slips. And Cobra-san says, no. And she crashes down to the mat right on top of her neck.
Oh, wow.
And like Cobra-san hops down. He's like, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. And like the ref just like backs him up. And the announcers are like, I think we've got an emergency situation. Like somebody get out there.
Yeah.
And Lona jumps over the gate and she runs out to see her mom. And we get this flashback of, and I'm just going to leave this so I can actually read it because it'll be pertinent later on in the story. But we get a flashback of her laying in bed with her mom. And while they're sitting there talking, like she's asking her mom, like, hey, what happens to us? Like, where do we go after life? And like her mom was like, you mean like dying? And like Lona's like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, well, we don't really know. Like it's all kind of a mystery. But don't worry, I'm not going anytime soon, is what she tells her. And then we cut back to while they're there, that's what they cut into the top end.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad comes out of the emergency room to tell Lona that her mom has died.
Mm.
Like she's gone, baby. And the two, it's a really great panel down there. Like you just get the EME of emergency.
Yeah.
And that's her uncle there, just like palm in hand. And it's just like a very somber moment. And then we cut forward 10 years. And we talked about that action again.
Yeah.
There's Lona now wrestling herself, and she gets punched in the face. And the way the jaw and like the lips move, and
the word "bam," is all over the
out,
back
and
of
it
that.
goes even out
Uh-huh.
into like past like into the gutter there, like past the screen. So Lona's fighting this woman,
Yeah, it's very.
and she is just getting the mess beat out of her, and she ends up losing. Like there's a point where you think she's going to get some offense in, but she ends up losing. And we come to the back and we see that it's her Uncle Blood that is running this promotion or whatever it is. I mean, it's the promotion that she's working there. And he pays her, and she goes, hey, Uncle Blood, I thought that maybe I could come back next week and see if I could, get a hand at some other wrestlers, And he goes, I don't think so, kiddo. And she's like, well, why? You can tell me, like, what is it? And he goes, well, first of all, like, you're green. Like, you can tell that you haven't done this professionally.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not talking about just the taking the bumps part. Like, you do the moves fine. It's just you can tell, like, you haven't been in this, like, long enough. Like, it's not just that. And she goes, well, I've been trying to find somebody to teach me, but, like, nobody will. And he's like, of course nobody's going to teach you. You is still Rose's daughter. Nobody wants to touch you. They don't want to be afraid of something happening to you, too, that, like, happened to your mother.
Sure.
And he goes, I wish, like, there's something I could do, but there's nothing. And so Lona's like, so my mom dying in the ring means I can't wrestle then? And he's like, it's not just that. Like, I made a promise a long time ago. And she's like, a promise about what? And that's when she gets a phone, or she leaves and goes outside, and she runs into her dad. And we find out that the two of them have not been on good speaking terms. He obviously does not want her to wrestle because of what happened to her mother.
Right.
And it's the only thing she wants to do because she feels like that's where her calling is.
Okay.
Well, her uncle tells her that the reason nobody's been willing to teach her, or even he himself, as her uncle hasn't been wanting to teach her, is because that he promised her dad that he wouldn't. So she finds out that he's been around like getting people like, don't teach my daughter, like I don't want her to be, it's a story that you would think of.
This is an old story. It's been told many times.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen it in this context.
No. Well, we're about to kick it up a notch, Mike.
Okay. Zombies.
Well, so he essentially, like, as they're meeting, like, Lona's like, I told you, Dad, don't come to my matches.
I have never understood those sunglasses.
Oh, the ones with
the ones from the 80s that have like the little levers in them, right? It's like you're looking through a set of blinds. That can't be safe. Number one. And number two, what the hell are you seeing?
Things in the slatted view.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
So they
never understood guys who wore those colored sunglasses inside either, like the yellow ones and the pink ones and the that kind of stuff.
The yellow ones and the pink ones.
Yeah, like they wear those.
Just regular colored ones,
well,
like the neon colored ones.
No, I'm talking about the lenses. Like the lenses are.
Oh.
I can't imagine going around and seeing everything in red.
I mean, maybe you should try it. Maybe it's not that bad.
No.
So
it's terrible.
They get to a fight again there, and her dad kind of tells her, like, and if you keep going, you're going to end up just like your mom.
Yeah, sure.
And so Lona's like, all right, we're done here. And the guy with the sliding glasses that Mike keeps talking about is kind of watching from an alleyway as he sees what's happening. And he comes around and he goes, Lona, still Rose? And she's like, yeah, what? And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you. Just needed to talk. And she's like, are you from like another promotion or something? And he's like, No, not really, but I have been watching you a long time. And she goes, okay, man, like if you want something, like you can just see me after a show or something like that. Like I'm not here to talk. And he goes, maybe it's better, it'd be easier if I showed you exactly who I am instead. And so he takes her to this different world, and we'll have a picture here coming up soon. That's right. He transports her from Earth to a different world. And it's like this giant, like there's a castle, there's a hellscape. It wouldn't format right here. That's just why I don't have it. But you'll see a picture of it here soon. Yeah. And what we come to find out is they're walking up. He has a wrestling ring, and he wants to put on a tournament. And you see him like climbing up there, and he lets her know, I'm a necromancer. And you see, I'm running a wrestling tournament of sorts, but a belt isn't the only prize.
That is a big ass belt.
It is a big ass belt, but he tells her, but a belt isn't the only prize. I'd like to talk to you about bringing your mom back to life.
Oh, wow.
And so that's where issue 1 ends.
Okay.
Of where we find out that,
all right, Mr. Spiky Head.
Yeah, that Lona is being presented about a wrestling tournament where the prize would be potentially bringing her mom back.
Wow. Have you ever thought about bringing somebody back like that? I don't think that would go well. I don't want to.
I don't either.
Every time I see it in a movie or whatever, it always goes so poorly.
Yeah. Well, we talked about and it's one thing. I watched the Creature Commandos, the first episodes that came out.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that you think about, like when the bride comes back.
Shows up in it.
Huh?
I read that Superman shows up in it.
He hasn't yet.
Oh, sorry.
Well, thanks.
Mr. Cornsweet, or whatever his name is.
Cornwallis? No, it's Cornsweat.
Colonel Cornwallis.
Yeah.
In the library with the Superman.
Thanks, Mike. No. So,
hey, very rarely do I ruin anything comic book related.
Yeah,
for
but you just ruined it for all of us. All right. Well. Hey, here's the thing. Everybody's gonna have to deal with that.
Rewind this and don't listen to it.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have to deal with this like I did. So,
blame me. We already established I'm the heel. So
but yeah, that's true. But what I was gonna say was, like, when she comes to life, like that's the thing is like they kind of come back from out of nothing. Well, at least in her sense of nothingness, because it's a bunch of different parts pieced together. I don't know if you the theory, because obviously you just discussed this and you figure out what works best for you and the thought of this, but it's like, do they come back and they remember who they were?
I'm figuring out what's best for me.
Here's the thing, Mike. Do you know anybody that is proficient in necromancy?
No, not yet.
That's what I'm saying. You make up what works best for you when it comes to necromancers.
I know a lot of Reiki people. Is that the same thing?
With a tiny little rake?
Yeah, the tiny little Reiki people.
But it,
look at them go.
I don't know. I think it would be like maybe they remember who they were before, but maybe they just like exist in consciousness.
I think it's a Frankenstein situation, right?
So they come in completely new again.
You know, Frankenstein's monster. He didn't have any idea who he was or why he was there.
Yeah, he had
any of that stuff. Yeah,
putting on the Ritz.
He is putting on the Ritz. Yeah.
So, issue 2 of Do A Powerbomb here, and what we have now is. He explains, see, this is the little world I told you we were getting into. We get a shot of the necromancer in this island he's been stuck on. And he tells the story of how he had this great power and how he led this army to essentially take over the world. But eventually these guys that they fought, like whoever he was fighting at the time, were able to subdue his power long enough to banish him there to this island without being able to leave. So now he's stuck on this island.
And they're in this old dome, kind of like a basketball arena is kind of what it reminds me of. But it's like the roof has been completely ripped off of it.
There's a town around the arena too.
Yeah.
And there's it almost looks like a submarine turned sideways, but also shark looking, up into that castle.
It kind of reminds me of something in the Mandarin, or not the Mandarin. What's a Mandalorian? Like where something would land, almost a place where a ship would land.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that. Okay, so it's got the little space there where they're standing.
I see where they're talking right now.
Yeah, it's almost like a little spaceship.
Yeah. And he tells, I don't think we get the whole story, but yeah, he tells the story of essentially while he was stuck there and just messing around with random equipment and technology they had here on this island, he discovered television.
Oh.
And then through television, he was able to pick up feeds from all across the world. And he's like, and I fell in love with pro wrestling.
I always liked those kind of storylines where they picked up our signals from space or whatever. So like Galaxy Quest is one of my favorites. That's
I love Galaxy
fantastic Quest. Because of that. Yeah.
So this tournament, this wrestling tournament, isn't just like from Earth; it's from all across the galaxy.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I know this is a little bit just like it's fun and out there, but it's great.
Yeah. Look right behind my head. Look at this thing over here.
Oh, there's a little lucha.
There's a little lucha right there. Yeah.
And so
his head falls off whenever I'm moving.
He's telling him like, "Oh, I discovered TV and it was amazing." Like he's like, we had like lutes and harps and outdoor theater, and all that's fine. He's like, but the pageantry, like not knowing who was going to win, the action, the drama, I loved all of it. He goes, and that's where I saw your mother's last match with Cobra Sun. And I saw you in the stands running to your mother, and it got me thinking, the best part of wrestling is not knowing who's going to win. The stakes are so high, and what would be the best way to raise those stakes even higher? It's not just winning like this championship belt, but it's by letting the winner of the battle bring one person of their choice back to life. Wow. And he opens a room, and it's her mom there, and Lona runs, but it turns out it's just like an apparition, and she fades away. And he's like, all right, what the hell is this? Like, how did you do that? And he's like, I told you, I'm a necromancer. Since I'm focusing on the story and I don't have everything, the comedy in this is really great too. There's a part where he's telling her this story and he has a guy behind him, and I can't remember his name, but he's just like, Bob, I think he's like, more cheese, Bob. Like while he's telling, like there's comedy just kind of thrown in there.
The bottom panel there is very reminiscent of like 90s MTV liquid television type stuff.
Yes, it does look a lot like that.
Looks like,
but so the humor in this is really funny too. It's just, it doesn't take itself seriously, and it's just great on that. And he goes, I told you I'm a necromancer. He's like, so what do you say? Will you join my the Death Life Tag Team Tournament? And she goes, yeah, I will. And I'm going to do it by myself without a partner. Like, I can go ahead and I'm going to get my mom back.
Wait, she's going to do a tag team tournament by herself?
And that's what he says. He's like, no. This is a tag team partner.
Yeah.
Like, you need a partner. And she goes, nobody wants to train me. Nobody wants to work with me. Who the hell's going to be my partner? And he's taking her back to Earth, and he goes, well, I can think of one person who might be interested.
Oh, shit.
And he drops her off outside of a sun, like a poster, for a wrestling match, or a pay-per-view, like an event for Destiny with Death, that Cobra Sun is taking on a guy named Kaneda the Destroyer.
Okay.
So
that's a gigantic poster. It is. The poster is like the size of a building.
This is 10 years in the future, too. So what's Cobra Sun up to? Well, Cobra Sun has kind of gone downhill. It's very. Have you seen The Wrestler?
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah.
Good
you
movie.
know how they kind of. You know how they kind of do the bits of where like he's doing anything he can to kind of like make or whatever he'll wrestle. Like that's kind of what's here. Like this is and I had the Bam is back again that we had in issue 1, like there, and I loved it. You see he does it again where it just breaks through, but like his hair becomes part of the word. You can't tell. Oh, and I just love.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I can't give Daniel Warren Johnson enough kudos for this. Just
the art on this is gorgeous. Yeah,
the story, everything. I loved it. The whole team that worked on this, and so Lona is just sitting there watching them. Like she decided like to go in and watch to see what's going on, and it's this big brutal like death match. Like there's a moment where he's beating his opponent over the back with like this chair wrapped in barbed wire. And he's like holds the chair over, and the guy's like, "Come on, what are you waiting for? Do it!" Like trying to get him like to hit him.
Yeah.
And he freezes up because he sees Yua's face, and it's like, "Do it!" Like he's still kind of haunted by this.
Yeah, sure.
So the guy's fine. He's like, "Well, I guess I gotta."
It's crazy to me that he's still wrestling.
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah.
But the guy's fine. He's like, "Well, I guess I gotta improvise since he's taking his sweet time, just holding that chair over me." So like kicks him to get the match going again. It's like he freezes up and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He gets stabbed with a fork. He gets hit over the back with like light pulp. That's why I said, do you remember the wrestler? Because it reminds me of the one where I don't remember the guy's name in the movie, but I think it was actually Necro Butcher, the wrestler, but where he like staples to, like it's the crazy stuff like that they do to get a kick.
It's very like Japanese wrestling, like
it's a death match.
Gory it became at one time,
and so then after this, I don't have the time. After this, we go backstage, and he's sitting there just like bleeding, like trying to clean up. And the guy comes back, or the promoter comes back and like gives him his money. He's like, "Here's your payment." And he's like, "I was at the Whatever Dome when you made your debut." And he's like, "Man, you've fallen a lot since then. Like fallen so far since then. And the guy just turns around and leaves, and that's the promoter sitting there telling him that. And so he just kind of hangs his head, and that's where Lona shows up, and she's like, oh, like, hey, remember me? And he like kind of looks at her, and he's like, oh, well, Lona, right? You're Yua's daughter. And he goes, that Necro guy come talk to you too? And she's just kind of thrown off. She's like, what? He's like, yeah. He took me to his world, talked to me about this big castle, right? Talking about this tournament. And you need a tag partner, don't you? Like, that's why you came here. And she goes, well, yeah, but, and he's like, it's not happening. And she's kind of confused about this. And he goes, look, you're too green for anybody to, tag with you. And it's a guarantee that we'll lose. And even worse, you'll get hurt. Like, I'm not going to take somebody with that less experience. And Lona tells him, like, you know all about that, huh? And he's, because like nobody will train you. And he goes, I do. Lona, your mother was the best that I've ever, and she cuts him off. And she's like, stop. You don't get to talk about my mother. Like, I don't want you to ever talk about her. You killed her in that ring, and seeing you tonight, you wrestle like you know it.
Well, he didn't mean to.
No, I know. But like she tells him, like, I can tell even by the way you wrestle that it still haunts you.
Yeah.
So don't sit there and talk to me about this. But if there's a chance of bringing her back, of me being able to do that, like, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to, being free from all,
Sure.
And I thought that maybe you being able to be free from all this, that maybe you'd like to do that too.
Well, that makes more sense that it would absolve him as well.
And so she tells him, like, I'm going to do this with or without you. Nobody's going to fight harder than me. And maybe you feel as guilty as you look. And so she kind of gets ready to go or leave. And she's like, we might make a good team. And he just sits there and picks up his bag. And he's like, noon tomorrow, meet me at the shop. And don't forget your boots. And he just leaves.
Meet me at the shop.
Which is where they told him to go back. And we're getting close to wrapping up issue 2 here of where Lona decides to call her dad, since obviously she's about to go to a different dimension to fight in a wrestling tournament.
That's nice of her to let somebody know she's going to a different dimension.
And her dad's like, Lona, and she's like, I need to tell you something. Like, I'm going to be gone for a while. I'm going to do something crazy, but wrestling crazy, but like, I need to go do this.
Time work the same way there?
I'm assuming like she was just gone for a couple of days.
Okay.
That's never addressed, but I don't think you need to.
Yeah. I was just wondering. I knew you knew the story. So.
And she goes, like, just listen to me, Dad. Like, you've been trying to stop me from doing this for almost 10 years now. And it's not, like, nothing's done it. I won't stop ever. Like, this was Mom's dream, and now it's mine. Yeah. And so her dad just says, Lona, and she's just like, she thinks he's going to, like, stop her. And he's like, what, Dad? And he goes, her dad goes, be careful. And Lona goes, okay, I will. And just hangs up on her. And her dad looks at his phone, and then we close out issue 2 with him looking at his mask on the table. Because what we have been revealed now to at the end of issue 2, which is a pretty big spoiler, or a pretty big deal, is that Cobra's son was actually Lona's dad. Wow. So it wasn't just some other wrestler.
Yeah.
It was him, his accident killing his wife.
That is a fantastic drawing right there, though. That's beautiful art right there. Just the way that the angle is taken. The fact that the thing is just splayed out on the
mask there,
on the table.
You see
it's just good.
The glass with the alcohol there, the cigarette butt, like it's still, and he has a glass poured by him too. But one that's I kind of like too, that it's like it's still poured and it's like halfway, like he's just drinking whatever he can when he can.
He's trying to drown it.
He is, and so Lona's dad has more in this than we thought, and that's issue 2.
That's cool.
Of Do A Powerbomb. We will close out today's episode with, it makes sense that we will do...
episode 3. What do you know?
Issue 3. Huh. And that is where we'll close it. And then next week, we will wrap up this series.
Love those Gorillas.
They have a really cool tag team name, too.
Okay.
So
Gorillas?
No. I'll tell you right now. They're Orangabang.
Oh. There's a good band out there called Go Gorillas.
Oh, I like that.
They dress up in these monkey suits.
And they gorilla stuff?
Literally in gorilla suits. And they just play surf music the whole time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
These are actual orangutans, though.
Oh.
We open...
Right turn, Clyde.
Yeah, we open this issue with Cobra's son going to, or Lona's dad now, going to the bar to meet his brother-in-law, which was Uncle Blood there.
Yeah. So does Uncle Blood know?
He knows. Like, that's the thing.
I would think he would have to.
We get the explanation a little bit, and he's like, I can't believe, look, I don't have the whole conversation here, but Cobra-san sits down and is like, I can't believe you told her that I made you promise not to teach her. And he's like, she has a right to know that. Like, I can't keep lying to her about like, oh, I don't have any more matches, or, you know.
Well, she's what, like 18, 19?
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. And he goes, yeah. He's like, but she doesn't need to do this. And he's like, I don't think you understand. Like, she has just as much talent as her mother. Like, she's just as good. It's like you're the one just kind of holding her back there. Yeah. And I never understood or why, like, you let this go to where it was. And he was telling her, like, when she was so young, like, I felt weird, like, telling her, like, hey, your mom's out there, this big hero. I'm the one that has to go out there and, like, put her down. And I'm the asshole. I'm the guy who needs to go out there. He's like, it was a weird dynamic that we didn't want her to put through. So I just kind of stayed behind the mask. And when she was old enough, we were going to tell her then, like, hey.
Well, and then time just gets away from you.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Well, and then after he was like, I don't know how to tell her, like, after.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so we never did. And he's like, we were going to tell her until, and then Blood looks over at him and he goes, until you killed my sister. Jesus. So, like, they both kind of, like, yeah, he's like, and I've barely been able to look Lona in the eyes ever since. Like, he is obviously, like, torn up a lot about this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so then how much worse could come, because he tells him, like, you know, Blood asks him, like, how much worse could coming clean now be? And he goes, Blood, what if I could bring Ewa back? And Blood kind of looks at him, he's like, now you're just talking crazy. How many light tubes have you been taking to the head? And he just tells him, like, I'm going somewhere, and when I get, you know what, I'll see you. And so they leave, and the two of them head to that dojo where the necromancer, I don't know why I can't remember his name. I should look that up real quick.
The necromancer.
The necromancer does have a name.
Jeff.
I remembered his assistant's name. So his name is, I don't know why it doesn't say. He has to have a name.
Captain Creepo.
Anyway, Captain Creepo. So they show back up in the dojo where the necromancer told them to be.
Yeah.
And while they're there, they get transported to that world again, right?
Yeah. Like that.
So you get the DLPW, which is the wrestling tournament, and welcome to the Death Life tournament down there. And they got to kind of sign in. Yeah, that's how you know it's cool. So that's just a joke I've always made with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you put a C on the end of anything, but it's street smart.
But it's very fitting for this. No, it's Streets Ahead, Mike.
Oh, okay.
It's verbal wildfire. So, while they're there,
what is that? What's that from?
Community.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'll let you down.
And if you don't get that, your street's behind. So they have to go up and they have to sign up for some of the comedy comes out of this issue.
I don't like his pants.
Well, they match what he's doing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like they match his mask.
Yeah.
So they have to sign in, and he's like, all right, check in. And he's like, oh, I recognize your name. I'm Lona. He's like, no. What's your tag team name? Like, I need your name. And they're like, oh, we don't have one. And he goes, all right, let's see. Lona Still Rose and Cobra Sun. What about Sun and Still?
There you
and
go.
They're like, okay, yeah, that'll work. He's like, cool. Here's your keys for your lodging. Your first match is tomorrow at 11. Be ready at the entrance gate by 10:30. And they ask who they're facing. Then that's where he tells them, like, okay, you're going to take on Orangabang. And they're like, Orangabang? But Cobra Sun is just like, all right, next question. Where's the bar at? And so
what?
I got ahead of myself.
Okay, you got ahead of yourself.
And so he tells them where the bar's at. So they go to this bar, and she's like, you know, isn't this a little bit too early for you to be doing this? And he's like, I'm going to have to be doing all this. Like, I just need like one drink, and then we'll get back to everything. She's like, let me, like, I got a lot to do here. I'm carrying you. Like, so while they're there, there's this little dog that runs around the bar, and it's like the owner or the bartender's like dog. And it ends up urinating on one of the tag teams that are there. That are called, I think their name is called F Your Stupid Opinions. So they go by FISO is this tag team's name. And they're very loud and they're very like, oh, we must kill the puppy for him disrespecting us like this, you know, like all of that. And so that's where he yells out as he's about to puppy punch. He's like, there must be punishment. And he goes to punch the puppy. And but that causes Lona obviously to be like, who the hell punches puppies?
It's like a little white golden retriever
puppy. It is.
It's
a cute little puppy.
Yeah.
And Lona just like breaks this up and like kicks the dude in the face. And she's like, who the hell punches puppies? And then his tag team partner's like, stay out of it. And so there's a bar fight now
Yeah.
between Cobra Sun, Lona Still Rose, and this FISO team. And so no one will question FISO. And he's like, wait a minute. I know you. You look familiar. You're Cobra Sun, right? And they're like, yeah, we've seen you on Earth.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, we're getting to that.
That's
He's like,
big old monkey.
he's like, oh, we've seen you on Earth. And he sits there and he cracks his glass by the handle, and he's still holding the sharp edges, like, you know, around the handle. And he holds it up to Lona's face, and he goes, you know, they say wrestling's fake on Earth. Let's go ahead and see if that's real then, huh? And so, like, she's sitting there, like, kind of nervous, and, like, Cobra Sun's about to, like, try to stop what's going on when Orangabang shows up and is like, please leave. And as you can see, they're very enforcing. Like, they're massive and big. And so the two of them are like, come on, let's get out of here. And like, this ain't over. So they leave, and the teams kind of introduce each other to themselves. And they're like, are you all right? And he's like, we just want to make sure you're okay. Like, we want our opponents to obviously, like, you know, be in the best condition they can be. We're sorry you had to deal with that.
Right, sure.
My name is Nexel, is what the big orangutan says. And he goes, and this is my brother Petey. And we go by the name of Orangabang. And Cobra Sun's like, yeah, that makes sense. And he's like, you know, you guys must be Sun and Still. Our opponents tomorrow should be in the best conditions. We wish for a completely fair fight. Like, they're, a well-intentioned dude.
Sure, yeah.
And so one of the main guy, Nexel, goes, so is it true what FISO said? And Lona goes, what? Nexel goes, that your wrestling on Earth is just for show. And Cobra Sun, not knowing how to answer it, goes, well, doesn't pro wrestling work the same everywhere? And there's a smile on Nexel's face, and he goes, of course, we knew they must be lying. And so they turn around and leave. And so they're getting ready to leave. They go, before we do, like, we wanted to let you know that many years ago, our sister was taken from us, and that's who we're fighting for. So just know we won't hold back.
Okay.
Like, they show the picture there.
Yeah, so that begs the question, does everybody here have
has somebody that they're fighting
everybody
for.
Has something at stake here in the same vein.
Yes.
Because they get to bring somebody back. So, okay, never
Bring
mind.
somebody back.
Final question, yeah.
So we get the tournament page there of who Sun and Still takes on Orangabang. There's and they all have, like, finishing moves and where they're from. There's another Earth team called Pro Pack. But then there is
Pizza Party.
Yeah, there's a team called Pizza Party. There's a team called Your Mom's Basement. But we get to see that it is a 8-team tournament for this then, and it's all single elimination. Okay, so one loss, you're out.
Yeah.
We get the match starting between Cobra Sun and Lona. Yeah, well, I mean, they have to, but Cobra Sun does get the mess beat out of him.
Nice kick, though.
He does. Like, Lona's trying to get tagged in, and they're just beating the mess out of. Okay, that's before that. I had to figure out where it was. Cobra Sun. They even end up hitting their special move, which, by the way, their finishing move is called Attenborough's Cradle, which I thought was kind of.
Oh, yeah.
And so they hit it on Cobra Sun, and it's 1, 2, 3. And before you can do that, no, Lona has dove into the ring and, like, kneed the guy in the head to break up the pin.
Oh.
You only get 1 pin, break up 2. After that, you're disqualified.
Oh, okay.
So she got her 1 save in to kind of break them up from losing. And Cobra Sun realizes that he's just kind of had his ass beat, and he needs to, like, get the hot tag, which is the hot tag in wrestling terminology, if you want to know something, is when they'll spend a lot of time beating up on one guy.
Yeah.
And, like, oh, he needs to go to tag his partner in, but it keeps looking like the odds are insurmountable. Like, he just keeps getting beaten up. The hot tag is eventually where, yep, exactly. He's reaching out there to try to get the tag, and he dives with that last little bit of effort to tag the guy in. It's probably a spaceship.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Listen, can you hear the rumble, folks?
That is crazy.
It's Elon.
It is, and our whole building is rumbling
The
too.
whole
On the
building
21st
is
floor.
rumbling. Yeah. There's a lawsuit out for that because it apparently is breaking people's shit.
I get that. It rumbles pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so he is able to, that's her breaking up the tag there at the top. And as we see, he's able to make the hot tag to get Lona in. And man, does she come in like a firecracker. Because what happened when they did the finisher, and I will say that this helps Lona out, is the smaller brother was tagged in.
Okay.
So that is who she's beating up.
That does make sense.
It does.
And then at the end there, the guy with the spikes on his head.
He does say, yep.
But he looks like Honky Tonk Kid.
Honky Tonk Kid?
You remember
Man?
Honky Tonk Kid?
Honky Tonk Man?
Whatever, same thing.
Well, a kid and a man's two different things.
Yeah.
One of them's a baby giraffe. So
a Honky Tonk Kid?
Yeah.
A baby giraffe?
I think a baby giraffe is called a kid. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Or it's called a Jeffrey, probably.
It's not a Honky Tonk.
I'm just a honky tonk man.
It's a Honky Tonk J-Raff.
She ends up kind of taking over the match.
Big old flip off the turnbuckle.
The art, like the way he's able to draw, yeah, she hits a nice little moonsault off the top and gets
Moonsault!
1, 2, 3 for the
Ding,
pin,
ding.
and they do beat Orangabang to advance.
Orangabang.
And there's a really nice moment of where, like, you know, you're winners, and they raise Lona's hand, they get in. And Nexel comes in to check on Petey, and Petey's like, I let us down, Nexel. I'm sorry, like, for losing. And Nexel's like, it's all right, brother. We did our best. And you see Lona like, I'm so sorry. Like, my mom, I have to get her back.
Yeah.
And there's a nice little moment of all three of them kind of in the ring there.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows you.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. It's a nice little sweet moment to show
They're all
the
fighting
heart
for the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then Cobra Sun says, I have to get her back.
And they can get along after they beat the shit out of each other.
Well, it goes to show you, like, there's two types of competitors in this tournament. We saw Fiza, which is going to be a problem later on.
Yeah.
Spoiler
Oh, you
alert
mean the
there.
guys who punch puppies? That's going to be a problem? Huh.
So what we then see to close out issue 3 is I can't remember this team's name. It was, the Knights of Rhine.
Okay.
Take Care Pizza Party.
Okay.
Very viciously, right?
They're just like gladiators almost. But maybe even more like Roman soldiers, right?
Yes.
Plus like an enforcer.
Yes. Their special move is like King Arthur's table, and they do it. And what it does is, like, one of the guys, I don't know how to explain this for audio. I've left the panel out here, but one of the guys has him by the feet and lifts him up. And the other, as he jumps, takes his knees and kind of like pushes his head to it when he lands.
Right.
But they do it through a ghost table that's supposed to be King Arthur's table, so it kind of looks pretty badass.
I see.
If you want to go back in the comic and find it, you're going to have to do that. I'm not giving away all the art for this.
Yeah, good.
And so they defeat the pizza party, and they see that, all right, great work, Elric. Like, you know, we're unstoppable. The other one's name is Torsten. So it's Elric and Torsten.
Torsten.
And it goes, looks like we have those earthlings next. They better steal their bones, for we are coming to break them.
Steal your bones.
And that is where we end issue 3 of Do A Powerbomb. And
This
we
is
will
cool.
pick up next week with the rest of the tournament and close out our story.
It's a cool series. Yeah. I like this.
No, I thought it was something different. I thought it was kind of out of the box. Also, I know we talked about the creative team. This is an Image book, so it's not even like a Marvel or DC comic.
Yeah.
We're focusing on something else a little bit there, looking at this Image title. But yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson, wrote this and illustrated, colors by Mike Spicer, and Rus Wooton for the letters, and it's just so great. There's also, I told you about the interview he gave. There's a beginning, the opening here, where he kind of the trade paperback, where he talks about like what gave him the idea for this. And he talks about how like their daughter back in like 2018, like couldn't sleep at night. Like she would like, and he would be up late at night with her doing things.
Yeah.
And the TV, I think it was ordered. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he would talk about how he would watch things while she was there, or like trying to soothe her and deal with her. And it was where he would find out, all right, he would find himself like catching glimpses of like wrestling and stuff and getting into that. And so he would watch it there with her, like New Japan Pro Wrestling, which just does have definite like a Japan kind of feel to it. But it's just, it's cool to get a glimpse behind that creative like aspect of it, to see like what was going on in their mind where they're doing it. But there you go.
It feels very much like a Black Mirror episode or something.
Yes. Issues 1 through 3, we will tackle 4 through 7 next week to close it out. I can tease you. That sounded weird. I can tease a lot of great matches coming up.
Yeah.
Including one against a deity that you would not think of.
Okay.
All
right.
Something to look forward to for next week's issue.
The God of Wieners.
Well, no.
Okay.
It's.
Don't tell me.
It's a way more formidable foe.
Okay.
Our
God of Butts.
Our World's Finest Wednesday. We will do something Marvel related. Probably going to dive back into the origins there, like we did with Thor. do the Hulk, and we'll be able to dive into and do that one using Marvel Unlimited, which will be fun. So we'll go
Ooh, Marvel Unlimited.
But that is our show for this week. As always, make sure to check out the other great shows on our family of podcasts at Rogue Media Network.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And until next time, let me make sure I get the close out because I always do that.
Get it.
Yeah. And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Gone.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.